you wanna bet that I can get you back inside your head before the summer ends and spread a little love. Just for a little fun, I'll make you come back to me before the rise of every sun. Baby, it's meant to be, I know you got a man, but he don't understand. You're gonna be a heartbreaker, you're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. There's rhythm in our love, it's impressive, excessive. You can't make this stuff up. My chest beats, it's restless, wakes the neighbors up above. Yeah, baby, come and show me love. Baby, come and show me love, because you're gonna be a heartbreaker, you're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. And take a one-way ride, steal us away to find a place we can hide. It wouldn't take much to spear for a knife, just to give in to the need and leave it all behind. 'Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. 'Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. You're gonna be a heartbreaker, you're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. You're gonna be a heartbreaker, you're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. Suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah.
All right, welcome to Inside the Numbers, folks. It is a different format today, and it's going to be different on Monday, right? So we're just kind of rolling into it. So you're watching Inside the Numbers. It is Friday, 10 a.m., 10:03 now, Eastern Standard Time, with the People's Pundit. Follow me on Twitter at People's_Pundit if you don't already. The newsletter link, obviously, is more important than ever. The newsletter link in the YouTube description. Follow it and sign up to the news list. On the news list, you can sign up for all of them if you want, but sign up to Inside the Numbers news list, because you could get zapped anytime, and then at least you'll know how to get a hold of me. All right, and we will send you out updates. And we didn't this time because, in fact, we're gathering up facts first before we found out what's going on. I'm reinstated. Laura is not. Big Data Poll is. PPD is not. And I'm going to tell you exactly what happened that led to that suspension. Okay. And I got to thank Tucker for giving me a chance to talk about it last night on the show. It's a shame we have to use that time instead of talking about why the polls were wrong again and what's wrong with them. We had to use that time instead to talk about what happened to my Twitter account. But the blowback from you guys, oh my God, was enormous. And we loved it. Look, it's Free Will and Friday. So, I'm in this shirt here. I'm in my vape shirt, and that's it. All right. So let me tell you what happened, and then we're going to run down. And well, this will all be really, I'll tie it right in. We'll just indict fact checkers who are agenda driven and have no interest in the truth. And the same goes, by the way, for media outlets, both on the left and the right. So when we decided to investigate allegations of voting irregularities and fraud, I figured, seeing all this stuff on Twitter, who has the resources to do this? So if you guys are watchers, because I've been talking about this. You know what I mean when I say a change of address flag. You know what I mean, but when I say that, when you pull a voter roll, deceased and change of address flags are all automatically excluded All right. If the camera does do its little glitch thing like it did on Tucker last night, it's a new camera. I'm trying to figure out why the hell it keeps doing it. But anyway, we did compile a list. There I go. I'm back. What the hell is that? Anyway, we did compile lists in different states, but one state in particular is what set all of this off. Okay. And that was in Michigan. And when I approached, or some approached us, but I wanted local media that I could trust. So I did ask people, who do you trust in local media in this particular state? And I could just tell you, we're talking about the state of Michigan. And then there will be other states, by the way. So just to give everybody a heads up, I wanted them to chase down these leads and go talk to local officials and say, listen, can I see the book? Can we see, because is it true that this person didn't vote? Was it a clerical error? Is the website really messed up where the absentee ballot records may have been received but weren't counted? We were willing to accept some of those excuses, but we did want local media to chase them down. And we did not want it to be public until the investigation, of course, was done. The Epoch Times, we spoke, and, they're a client of mine, so we're cool, but they did jump the gun. That is not what they were not supposed to blast the headline. This is how many names were found. And I did contact them and say, you need to revise that right now, because we are not done, and we fully expected you were going to help sift through this. The other people in Michigan, they had no interest in it at all. They just want to debunk stuff, which brings us to fact checkers. All right. This is why you have to be so careful with everything you do, because not just because they have an agenda. Go look at the homepage of PolitiFact right now and tell me that they're a fact checking organization. They are agenda driven. You can tell in their emails. You can tell in their voices. And I have to tell you, I got along, and I'm going to pull something up here and we're going to talk about it. I never thought I'd say this, but I got along with Snopes. But this is what happened. The Snopes reporter called about the Georgia ballots thing. All right. And PolitiFact had already. And by the way, right now, let me just start off by saying this. I demand PolitiFact either retract, take down their story, or correct it. I demand it. Otherwise, I'm going to get Robert Barnes to send you a letter demanding it if you don't do it. But they're lazy. They're shoddy journalism. And they just ran with it because they have an agenda. They're also not as intelligent as they think they are. Because if they were, they would know what I was talking about. But I have to give it to Snopes, who called first. Unlike PolitiFact. And this is why I got so mad at Jim Hoff at the Gateway Pundit, because in fact, PolitiFact is attributing his claim to me once again. And for those who don't know, this has happened before because he's Gateway Pundit and People's Pundit. People get confused. A couple of years ago when Parkland happened, he wrote something. Some news organization attributed it to me incorrectly, and I woke up to all sorts of hate mail and threats about, maybe I'll come and shoot your kids. Remember that? So this is not the first time. He incorrectly took my tweet and put it up on his website to mean that those ballots were counted. You guys are viewers, so you know. All we would do, this is low-hanging fruit. Deceased. Change of address flags, low-hanging fruit. So my question to PolitiFact is, why can Snopes do the job, but you can't? Why can Snopes do the job, but you cannot? What is with you that you're incapable or incompetent? I don't know. Or did you just intend to do it like this because you have an agenda? And we're going to read what Snopes wrote, okay? And then we'll go and we'll look at what PolitiFact said. Okay. Here is the Snopes article. All right. Do you guys see that? Yeah. Do you see the, yeah, it'll come back. It's just, there's a lot of ads on this thing, so it freezes it. All right. So here it is. In Fulton County, Georgia, 132,000 ballots are highly likely to be ineligible. That's what Jim and others, apparently others, she told me, took that tweet to mean and then ran with it. But PolitiFact is attributing the claim itself to me, and I want a retraction. You should have just stopped being lazy. Stop being lazy. Stop doing Twitter journalism. Tweeting is not journalism. And then I'm going to tell you what led up to the suspension. I know I got to do something with it. We'll figure it out. Just bear with me until the break and I'll figure it out. In the days following the 2020 presidential election, some social media users posted baseless claims that a whopping 132,000 ballots cast in Georgia, Fulton County were highly likely to be tossed out due to an unspecified issue stemming from change of address. And here's one example. And it's, I guess, some guy, Kyle Becker. All right, that started that. They said the tweet above was taken from another tweet posted by Richard Barris, me, director of big data polling. But Barris told us that his commentary has been taken out of context by various websites and other social media users, including the Gateway Pundit, which they called a junk site. That's kind of, I think is that like a classification they use, or is that just like an insult? I don't know. Anyway, Barris told us that he never said, and I did not, that 132,000 ballots were likely to be tossed out. He said that while researching voter files in Georgia, he noted that there were 132,000 flags indicating that people had moved. And then they got my quote in there. And that's fantastic. That's called journalism. All right. And I didn't research. That is a voter file. So PolitiFact is like this big wise ass, like, oh, he didn't cite any evidence that it could be this, that, or the other thing. That is the voter file, morons. That is the voter file.
It's a junk site. It states that is a term spam.
Okay, so junk site states it's a term for spam. Okay. All right. Well, okay, I get that. So that's what they classified him as, is what they're saying. Right?
Yes.
Okay. And maybe you guys can hear the audio. Maybe you can't. This is why we want to get back to Wirecast, because StreamYard just simply can't handle the load from the show. They just can't. And I like them. It's easy, but it has a hard time handling all these graphics. It just does. All right. So anyway, PolitiFact took Jim Hoff's article and attributed it directly to me. All right. And I want a retraction, because that is not what I said. But this is why they did it. I actually think it's intentional, and I'll tell you why. Because they did call to ask about the claims in the Epoch Times story. And I said, listen, they jumped the gun on that. Here's my email to them, lambasting them for doing so. But this is under investigation right now, and I will let you know what we find. But there are records for dead voters on the rolls in Michigan. End of story. And it's just a matter of how many can we truly validate, and we will let you know. They wanted the raw data set. I told them no, something they don't like to hear. And an hour later, we were zapped. That's what happened. The claim for the reason why we got zapped is artificial amplification, which is when you create fake accounts or multiple accounts to try to boost and constantly retweet and promote your own stuff. It is not the very common practice of having a personal Twitter account and then having an account for your business. Which, of course, if you're an officer of the business, you are going to operate. There are plenty of people who work at news organizations and other businesses that, of course, they have a business Twitter account that they use, and that is for business purposes. Retweeting an article in the New York Post that featured the accurate polling that we did at Big Data Poll for the election 2020 public polling project with you guys, retweeting something like that is not artificial amplification. So they did, with the blowback, unsuspend the account, my account. We have no idea why Laura remains suspended.
I can tell you why.
She got well, I will tell you this. They never send anything. And when we did send an email, I did it with my account first, because we never got, hey, your account is suspended. This is why. That didn't happen. I sent an email and I said, hello, I have been notified by my followers that my account is suspended. Will you tell me what is going on here? We got an email, a reply like that. So somebody was waiting. Somebody was waiting to hear. I think what happened here, folks, is my account following grew, and I will change that crap. What happened here is my account following grew quickly, rapidly, because of the polling project and because we had been covering what essentially was a moratorium on election integrity laws using COVID as a predicate. And because the follower count grew rapidly, that was a shot across the bow. And because I told PolitiFact that no, they could not have the raw data set. And I did tweet initially, I would like people, and you guys may remember this, look, I found thousands and thousands of records like this. I am willing, of course, willing to chase them down and see which ones, maybe some clerical errors, maybe some issue. That happens. Our system's not perfect. But approaching me and asking me that, pretending to be like a good faith, you know what I mean? Like a good faith offer. That's not what it was. It was PolitiFact trying to discredit something. So when we release the findings, it loses credibility. If you go to PolitiFact right now and look at their front page, it's completely filled with Republican allegations. Every single allegation of voting irregularities, voting any voter irregularity is attempting to be debunked, even though I've read several of them, and they're not even debunking the core of many of the allegations. Like the fact of the matter is, we just don't have enough information. It requires and it warrants investigation, and it requires time. They have an agenda, and they want to race to dismiss it all immediately because they want to close the book and they want to move forward. They don't care about election integrity. They don't care whether or not we start killing each other in a couple years because we just can't keep going like this. The country has to feel like the election was valid. We can't go from one cycle to the next. You know what? Your guy cheated. You know what? Your guy cheated. We're looking right now, folks, at margins in the battleground states that are smaller than the margins. We thought the margins in 2016 were thin. In those battlegrounds, it looked like an electoral vote landslide when you look at Trump's victory in 2016. But state by state, the margins were pretty thin. We're looking at thinner margins in these states in question, including Arizona, which was just called for Joe Biden amid a recount challenge. They want to close the book. They want to smear and discredit, and they want to censor. And consequences be damned. They do not want a thorough investigation into anything. And the right hurts their cause when people jump the gun like the way they do.
Like Jim.
Well, he just took something that was just totally yes, it does. But I'm saying, like, at least the Epoch Times jumped the gun.
Yeah.
But he took something that was just not actually what I was saying at all. And you know what? Sometimes I do make the mistake, and Laura's always telling me this. And some of my loyal watchers that talking, we always take suggestions from all of you guys. They always say this, like, sometimes you talk or you'll say things assuming that everybody knows what you're saying, and that's something that I have to work on. There's no doubt. So when I say there's 130,000 approximately change of address flags in Fulton County, Georgia alone, I should elaborate on what I mean by that. That's kind of ridiculous, actually, in my own opinion. That's kind of ridiculous because you should just refrain from commenting on something you don't know. You don't understand.
You assume people think like you. Though.
I know. And that's got to stop.
Yes.
I'm going to have to remember that. Even PolitiFact, you can tell by their fake fact check, they have no idea what the hell they're talking about. They have no damn idea. They run to the Fulton County supervisor and say, does this mean that 132,000 people didn't vote? That is not what a change of address flag means. But I would have educated you if you would have called. You did not. I got the message from Snopes. I called her right back. Laura will tell you I do not shy from anybody. I called her right back. I found her to be diligent. Did I think she had an agenda? Of course she had an agenda. But I found her to at least be diligent and she was seeking to root out what happened. You know? And that's different than what we got from PolitiFact. I know, and we are going to square that thing away. Just don't keep bringing it up because it just drives me nuts when it happens, right? Yeah, but then they zap Laura for good measure. And that's the tell, isn't it? Isn't that the tell?
I think I'm your casualty of war.
Yeah. You know what? I could put you on figure 8 so people can hear you. She said, I think I may be your casualty of war. And that may be the case because
now I can't correspond with those that are on Periscope.
Yeah.
And it's aggravating because I'm sure they have questions on free will.
Yeah. And that's another reason why we want to bring this to a totally different forum, honestly. So again, subscribe to that newsletter that is in the YouTube description right now. All right. And Laura, why don't you over at YouTube now? Is that what you're doing to talk to people? You're on Parler.
But I'm saying YouTube, and then I'm looking into Rumble right now.
I mean, you should take this. If you want to see this, use the big dash and talk to people through here if you want, I guess. I mean, you know, we'll do that during the break, you know. We'll do that on the break, you know, but yeah, I mean, I don't know what Blackout's saying. If he was talking about, if it has something to do with this fact checking stuff, then I'd like to see it. But basically, they not all fact checkers are created equal, friends. That's all there is to it. At the very least, I'll tell you what, I've had many encounters with Snopes. We've never been fact checked. I got to tell you, that is absolutely, they did it the right way. And credit is deserved where credit is due. You know, credit should be given where credit is due. PolitiFact, they did something deceptive. It's a fake. It's a totally bogus fact check. And I think they did it on purpose. I think that was an attempt to try to take somebody out of context. That's what I think. And unless they retract it, there's no other explanation. Because to attribute that claim, you're going from point A to point C without going to B first. So I say there's 130 plus thousand change of address flags in Fulton County, and they take that to say, he said there are 130,000 phony ballots in Fulton County. And the Fulton County supervisor is a liar. I don't need to call. This is what PolitiFact doesn't understand because they're just ignorant to the business. I don't need to call the Fulton County supervisor of elections to ask them what's on their voter rolls. I have them. You understand? That's my business. That's what I do. I just stay in your lane. Right. Stay in your lane. I don't need to call them to verify whether it's accurate. I have them. That's what we do over here. And if you were to watch the show, you'd see it. Because we opened up the voter files to show everybody live on the show. I mean, it's just crazy. It's shoddy. It's unethical. You know, I mean, there's really no other words for it. And I lean again toward it was intentional because I told them they could not have that. They could not have what we have so far. They can't have it. They'll get it and they'll see it when everybody else sees it. And I even said that we will keep you privy on the findings. That apparently wasn't good enough. And in fact, we didn't even get a response like, oh, thank you. Yes, I'd really like that, right? Nope. What I got was my phone blowing up. You're suspended. You're suspended from Twitter. Nuked. It's just incredible. We live in a dangerous era, a very dangerous era. What I'm most concerned about is that they don't care first of all, this is the United States of America. And we don't know the extent of what we're going to find. We don't know. We're not telling anybody this is going to, it would be affecting this or changing the outcome of an election. We don't know. That's not how you go in to data journalism. That's not how you approach any kind of data science. You've got to just take it one step at a time, go through the process, and follow, the data wherever it leads you. And then you come to the conclusion that's the accurate conclusion. But they don't want anybody doing this. They want to shut everybody down. You're investigating allegations of voting irregularities, bang, you're gone. We can't stop him from releasing this. Ban him, discredit him, attack him, smear him. They are very short-sighted people. They give no thought to the future and what this is going to be, what they're going to do to us if they continue trying to squash people like this and to squash their voices and to ignore their concerns. In case you guys haven't figured it out yet, Donald Trump was elected in 2016 because your entire class ignored the voices of people, tried to squash them, tried to stomp them out, tried to vilify them, tried to marginalize them, dismiss them. And you want to know who was to blame for the last 4 years that you hated so much? You are to blame for it. Go look in the mirror and smack yourself. Because that you want to take it out on somebody? Go stare in the mirror and smack yourself. Just keep doing it over and over. You are to blame, and you're going to do it again. You're going to make it worse this time. It's going to get worse. All right? Now, while we take a quick... It's because you can't do that in a self-governing society. You can't... These are the avenues which people, have grievances and need to air their grievances. They do it through elections. They do it through their freedom of speech, right? You stomp that stuff out, and it leads down a bad road.
And if you let them do it to you.
And if you let them do it, yeah. I mean, look, Laura, in truth, these people are more dangerous than Soviets ever were.
Yes.
Because Soviets, all they really ever had was, your good old-fashioned tyranny, a lot of guys and a lot of guns, right? But they didn't have the powerful tools that these people have to squash people, to target people, to identify people, right? Like the secret police had to wear down the shoe leather to go after dissidents. These people can put you on a list because of your Twitter activity and feed it to their friends who they clearly coordinate with. Let me explain something. This is another thing. These big tech clearly coordinates with big media. It is patently true and blatant, obvious. They absolutely do coordinate. So I think what happened here is you guys really flipped out. So they let me out of the jail. You guys flipped out. And then big...
2 hours.
Huh?
I heard you trended for 2 hours.
Did I really?
That's what I heard.
Whoa. And Big Data Poll was left out. I mean, it's going to feature in the New York Post. Amplifying content. I don't think PPD ever retweeted Big Data Poll. I don't think that ever happened. And in fact, they stayed in their lane so much that the Public Polling Project was on Big Data Poll in the portfolio section of the website. And the Public Polling Project was on PPD for subscribers separately. And neither one ever retweeted the other. You understand what I'm saying? So it's even how you could argue artificial amplification, it just doesn't make sense. I have retweeted PPD, but Sean Hannity can't retweet Fox News, like an article on Fox News. Is that what you're trying to argue? It's ludicrous. It's nuts. That's an arbitrarily used, obscure term Twitter rule. That's just true. They use it arbitrarily. They use it when they want to I think it was just a shot across the bow. I think it was, hey, you know what? This guy had 40,000 followers. What did I have before all this hit the fan? 40, something like that, maybe a little bit more. A little more, whatever, roughly 40 to 50. And they're like, whoa, this guy had 40 to 50, whatever, 1,000 followers 2 weeks ago. Now he's coming up on 250,000. Let's take him down a peg. So some little cubicle tyrant hit the button. Again, subscribe to the newsletter. It's in the video description right now. Or you could go to peoplespunditdaily.com/newsletters, and you will see, right? /newsletters, right?
Yes, I believe so.
Yep. peoplespunditdaily.com/newsletters. And you will see there's a breaking news thing, a morning pundit. We used to do that more often, and we should get back to doing that. That was like pretty cool. Like, did you see what happened yesterday? The Dow hit this, jobless claims did that. Here's a couple of things we covered. Moving on. We should probably maybe go back to doing that. But we don't blow you up, is my point. And then there's inside the numbers. It says arrives daily, Monday through Friday, but we haven't been bombarding you like that. The idea was eventually, once we upload the episodes back to the website again, start doing that, kind of catch up from the election coverage madness. Then we would send you out, hey, did you see the episode from yesterday? Don't miss the one this morning. That was it. In a nutshell. But now it's more important than ever, because now it's about you being able to get a newsletter, hey, we're going to go live at 10 o'clock, if that's the way it's got to be. And of course, YouTube's no problems with YouTube. All that so far, so good. But what if anything, if what happened proves anything, it's that we simply can't afford to rely on their good faith. We just can't. And we have at least, like the difference between, I've explained this before, like they're not going to destroy us by removing my Twitter account, like financially, you know what I mean? Like a lot of people, they financially rely on that. That's not the case with me. But it does destroy my ability to connect with you and my ability to really, this show was supposed to be educational leading up until this election. Here is how polling works. Here are how elections are conducted. Here is how this election is different from how elections have been conducted in the past. And apparently, that was a big flag for them. So they do not want you to understand the difference between a solicited and unsolicited ballot. They do not want you to understand the difference between having granular precinct level data versus only having obscure county level data. They don't want you to know the difference between 2016 having reporting deadlines for absentee ballots and 2020 having no deadlines and just keep, endless flows of ballots. They don't want you to know any of that. They don't want you to know about the moratoriums on ballot harvesting. They don't want you to know about Georgia. They don't want you to know about how dirty the rolls are. And they definitely don't want to talk about voting irregularities. They definitely do not. So again, I'm going to take a quick break. All right. We'll be back in 30 seconds. I may switch up the damn view. I don't know about you, Laura, but this kind of clicking on and off is driving me nuts. The camera's just so much better. Look at how much better that camera is. I love it. It's so much better. But yeah, I know what you're saying. It's driving me kind of nuts a little bit. I hope you guys had a good Veterans Day, by the way. They zapped me on Veterans Day. You know that? They zapped me on Veterans Day.
I said, what a nice way to treat a veteran on Veterans
Did
Day.
you say? And then that's probably when they zapped you. No, they zapped us all at once. I mean, it was just like bam, 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 bam. I mean, it's gone.
We were executed simultaneously.
Yeah, it was like the guillotine came down all at once.
It's like they were like 1, 2, 3, go.
All right, we'll be back in 30 seconds. Stay tuned. Don't go anywhere. You're watching Inside the Numbers. Sign up for the newsletter right now in the video description. 30 seconds. Yeah, they do. I mean, that's another thing, I mean, the bottom line is, and she's reading me some of your questions and comments during the break here, but what she's saying is, some of you pointing out that the GOP did this. I mean, they don't give a rat's, man. They don't care. The bottom line is they had this. They had the power to do something about this a long time ago, and they just frankly decided not to care. I mean, that's it, really. So now I got to look at them over here this way. Yeah. Oh, I hate this. I hate this angle, Laura. I'm going back. People are just gonna have to deal with the camera. Nah, it's glitchy. It looks nasty. It looks like the green screen's messed up. That's better. The green screen looks so much better this way. I'm sorry, guys. We just have to deal with the little momentary glitch, and we will get that worked out by Monday. Okay? Promise. And that's what happened on Tucker last night. That damn lens went, that if you guys saw me go green and disappear and come back, I pulled an alien. I was like, oh my God. That happened to me on Fox News on prime time. But whatever, you keep going. Tech things. You did? You did? Okay. Yeah. I mean, I think I've seen people glitch out on Fox News before, of course, but I just, you don't want it to happen to you, Anyway, yeah, so back to my train of thought here. All right. Next thing on the list is the New York Times' latest attempt to explain their incompetence and their deception. All right. So leading up into this, as you guys know, I mean, I'm thinking, this is the paper, right? This is the paper who told us, along with many, many others, right? So is it possible they would intentionally try to deceive you with these polls, or are they just incompetent, right? And I couldn't help, it's like burning thing in the back of my brain, that these are the same news outlets that said the president was a Russian asset, a traitor, who stole the election, who colluded with Vladimir Putin, right? The Putin puppet. Michael Flynn broke the law, violated the Logan Act by doing exactly what the Biden team is doing right now, by the way, talking to foreign dignitaries like they're the president of the United States or something. By the way, Ron Klain being the chief of staff, that tells you everything you need to know. We're getting locked down. Ron Klain is a public health guy. He was, if you were really paying attention, he was a complete fool when it came to how Biden handled the COVID thing. The media did it for, like, really carried water for them. But in truth, Ron Klain would come out one day and he'd say, you know what? Trump's a racist and a xenophobe like Biden for closing the borders. That was unnecessary. Go party in Chinatown, in San Francisco, or whatever. Go out to your local Chinatown gathering for the Chinese New Year or whatever, and party like it's 1999. There's nothing to fear. Trump's a racist. Then he would, a month or two later, catch up, pull a Biden, plagiarize what the administration was doing already, and then criticize the administration for not doing enough. That was their playbook. Ron was behind the Trump administration a month, 2 months. I mean, it was ridiculous. He constantly contradicted himself, but he is a lockdown guy. He is a mask mandate guy. So I'm telling you, if he is the chief of staff now, then you know where we're going. And by the way, in case you didn't notice, the Small Business Optimism Index, and you'd know if you were a subscriber to People's Pundit Daily. Go to peoplespunditdaily.com/subscribe. ppdnews.us/subscribe. Laura wants me to do that. You guys are great, by the way. Subscriptions have been bumping up. Really, guys, we love you for it. Really do. But yeah, on PPD, you'll see that right there, that the Small Business Optimism Index collapsed in October. Why? Because of fake polls. Like the ABC News, Washington Post poll. Biden plus 17. Like Nate Cohen. Florida, Biden plus 6. Then Biden plus 3. I'll give him credit. You heard it at the last minute. North Carolina, Biden plus 6. Ohio, tied, right? Was it tied or something? Texas, tied. Fake polls actually hurt our economy last month. The uncertainty index skyrocketed in the National Federation of Independent Business Small Business Optimism Index. uncertainty skyrocketed, and the index fell to the lowest level since, guess when, guys? Take a guess. November 2016. The index has not been this low. There I go again, alien rich. The index has not been this low since since before Donald Trump was elected. Get ready for more of that. And you have stories from the Washington Post, by the way. Job creation is going to slow. The economy is going to slow under. Listen, you guys, you're just going to have to deal with it. Okay. The economy is going to slow under a Biden administration. And it's not his fault. And I'm going to tell you why right now, according to the Washington Post. These jobs that we got, are you ready? They were easy jobs. Easy jobs. They didn't come back under 8 years under Barack Obama, but they claimed they were just jobs that naturally came back after the Great Recession. I kid you not. Construction and manufacturing had plenty of time to come back under Barack Obama after the Great Recession. It did not, because his policies killed construction and manufacturing, and it actually put mining and natural resources in negative territory. It was a negative trend. That sector shrunk under Barack Obama, and manufacturing was on life support. That is what the Obama-Biden administration did to that sector of the economy known as the goods-producing sector. Wages couldn't hit 3% if Barack Obama offered a giveaway. They only hit 3% growth in the third quarter of 2018, which was the first time it had done so since before the Great Recession. And wages have been steadily growing, save for the 1 month where we had distorted jobs data because of the COVID shutdown. They have grown at or above 3% now for nearly 2 years consecutively, save for that 1 month. The Washington Post wants you to believe, of course, that it's not Biden's fault the economy is going to slow down. These were just the easy jobs to get. This is the crap they feed you, the garbage they feed you that is not supported by data journalism any stretch of the imagination, nor was Biden plus 17 in Wisconsin ever supported by any kind. Listen, we were in the field at the same time in Wisconsin that they were. I would have had to manipulate the data to come up with a Biden plus 17. The truth is, in the Midwest states, except for Pennsylvania's a little bit better for this, and Ohio, I wouldn't even put in this category. The raw in Ohio was coming in Trump plus 10 routinely. That's why we took it off the board. We told you, did we or did we not tell you, Ohio was not competitive. Iowa was not competitive. Let's not pull it. It was closer. Iowa looked like, and in the end, actually, it was still 1 point more to the right, almost 1 point more to the right than Ohio. But for a while there, it did look like it was going to return to its historical position as left of Ohio by a couple of points, but it didn't. It was actually a little bit stronger of a state for Trump. In the end, people just came home. That's what happened. But yeah, polls actually hurt the economy, and now we have the New York Times. Are you ready? Who's to blame for their poll failure? Take a guess. A wild guess. Donald J. Trump. It is Donald Trump's fault that they suck at their job. Okay? And that is listed as number one. The number one reason. In the last few years. Oh, wait, back up. Quote. In the last few years, Republican voters seem to have become less willing to respond to polls. Maybe that shouldn't be surprising, given Trump's attacks on the media, science, and other institutions. I'm not going to wade into attacks on science and institutions. I'm not even going to wade into that. I will say, generally speaking, that those who have always warned that Donald Trump was a threat to our norms and our institutions turned out to be those who did the most damage to them. But if anything, it would be the first of all, I won't even concede that that point is thoroughly accurate. But I will say this. If anything, this problem has gotten worse not because of Trump's attacks on the media. Oh, no. If anything, response rates and non-response bias, which is what they're alluding to, maybe they don't know the technical term for it. Non-response bias would have gotten worse because of the media attacks on Trump and his voters, not the other way around. Again, it is not because non-response bias did not get worse because Donald Trump attacked the media. It got worse because the media attacked Donald Trump and those who support him and their way of life and their values and their inability to just get in line like good little idiots and groupthink together. When you know somebody hates you, has disdain for you, do you want to talk to them and share your opinion with them? Of course not. Now, non-response bias and just the overall issue of participation rates, response rates, were a problem long before Donald Trump. That is why you saw institutions like Pew and Gallup just basically quit the horse race. They're not in that business anymore. Pew will release a horse race here and there in a national poll, but they're not in it like they used to be. They will admit, and have openly and publicly, it's the response rates are just abysmal. The New York Post in the article that we were in did a great job doing their homework. It has been like that for years. What Nate Cohen and the New York Times didn't understand, I thought he said, wait, because this doesn't even make sense to his pre-election day arguments. Okay. Which, if you remember, the New York Times, featuring Nate Cohen, published an article before the election talking about how Trump-friendly polls are just not in the right, are just not in the same universe. And he said, which they featured, that they were just not good at their job. You know what it is, guys? They're just not very good at what they do. That's what he said. And he was talking about Rasmussen, Trafalgar, and I think Susquehanna.
Yes.
I don't know if they were specifically named me or not, but I know that the two of them that were named, or one of them that was named, was really pissed off and dropped it in my box. And it's like, how dare this guy? He hasn't called an election correctly in years. How dare he? And now look at him.
I would say he has a set of cojones, but...
Oh, man. Who's not good at their job? Who is not good at their job? And who do they herald? Quinnipiac? Not a single state was right. Quinnipiac hack didn't get a single state correct. Again.
The disparity between...
It's incredible.
Our polling, and when I say our, I mean the people and us.
Right. Talking about the public polling project.
Yes. And theirs, like...
It's not even close. It's not even...
laughable, though.
It's laughable.
Sit there and try to do the backstroke to save face.
Well, it's Trump's fault. It's not. They did nothing wrong.
Oh, yeah.
It's not hubris. It's not hubris that blinded them. It's not arrogance and ideology that drove them. I told him exactly what he did wrong in Florida. I told him exactly what he did wrong in the Rust Belt states. Map and all. Do you remember this, guys? Map and all. He not only was not open to criticism in the least, which is dangerous when you're in any kind of data research or any kind of survey research specifically. If you are not open to criticism after you fail, because he failed in 16, he failed in 18. Aside from calling a couple House races, he largely screwed the pooch on the big Senate races that mattered, the big gubernatorial elections that mattered. He, like everybody else, got it wrong. Andrew Gillum was never going to carry the state of Florida, Laura, by 5 to 7 points. Let me let him in on a little secret right here and right now. Joe Biden never led Donald Trump in the state of Florida. Do you understand that?
You are breaking liberal minds, as you said.
Let me break some liberal minds right now. Let me break a bunch of Republican minds too. Actually believed it. Donald J. Trump never trailed Joseph R. Biden in the Sunshine State. Never. Never, ever, ever. Donald Trump was always ahead, and it was going to be anywhere from, close maybe 1 to 4 points. And in fact, if you were following our polling, it doesn't shock you at all that it didn't end up that close, because what happened? South Florida happened. That's what happened. It was always a question of whether, how much was Hillsborough going to move? And then there were some questions about, Duval County in the Northeast. That was a county that Donald Trump did carry in 2016, but it had been slipping away from Republicans little by little by little. I mean, obviously, you'd know why. I mean, the urban areas in, the Northeast, the biggest urban center in Florida is in Duval County in the Northeast. And it's whiter than Miami, for instance. Miami has much more Hispanic diversity. Anyway, there were questions about Duval, questions about what we call the Tampa Bay area. So Pinellas, Pasco, Hillsborough. But in the end, what happened? Hillsborough didn't go. It didn't swing much more to Joe Biden. The trend in Hillsborough actually arrested a little bit. Pinellas, Donald Trump carried by low single digits in 2016. They tied it. I think Joe Biden led by like some 200 votes out of all those. I mean, it was dead even. And Pasco stayed pro-Trump. So the Tampa Bay area did not shift 4 points in total to Joe Biden the way we thought, because Hillsborough didn't drag it that much farther. The Orlando Atlantic Coast area shifted to Trump, as predicted. The Panhandle, which I kid you not, some of these crap media polls said was competitive. I mean, are you serious? The Panhandle was overwhelmingly for Donald Trump. And the big story, of course, was South Florida, which netted Trump hundreds of thousands of votes in total. Out, just not Miami-Dade. Overall, he did much better in Palm Beach. He did better in Broward, as a matter of fact. And Laura and I cannot help, after going and pouring through some of the voter rolls that we're doing now, Laura and I cannot help to wonder if whether Republicans were ever that low in Broward, or was it just Brenda Snipes?
I'm almost went. Oh man, I'm willing.
I mean, Laura, we all know what Laura thinks.
I'm willing to bet a substantial.
We all know what Laura was said. I'm willing to bet a substantial. And the sad thing is, Laura, we'll never know. We will never know. There's no way to tell. There's no,
Because the Hispanics were robbed.
I know.
Told, how long was Florida told that? What was the percentage? In 2016
of the Hispanic vote for Donald Trump? Oh, it was low. It was low. In the 30s, or supposedly the exit poll said. But the Cuban vote stretched it out. This time it wasn't just a Cuban vote. This time it was not just a Cuban vote. That is not everything that happened down there. It was new blocks. It was a shift from Colombians, Mexicans, Puerto Ricans. The more liberal Hispanics are in like Hillsborough. And the Puerto Ricans that live in Hillsborough County, they're among the more liberal groups in Florida. But there was a gain everywhere. Everywhere. And there is no way. And this is like, they fooled themselves. I explained to them, we don't have to hatch it out again and go over and over it. But I engaged him and told him, this is what you did wrong. And I said, this is where you polled? Well, no wonder. It's more than just education. It's education and region. In 2016, I said, it's region and education. They said, okay, it's education. That only got them halfway there. If not even halfway. Not even. Because
this is the killer part, though. He got the most diverse
Oh well, you're saying that as a well, and then this is where it really, and we'll talk a lot about this.
The white vote too.
Yeah, he did not lose. That's where I was going with this
Yeah,
before
I
you know.
know.
He did not lose the senior vote like everybody was showing him he was going to lose. That simply didn't happen. He carried Monroe. He carried Sarasota. It didn't happen.
You're forgetting the Centaurians, okay?
And so yeah, well, Joe Biden carried the 100 and above.
Yes, handedly.
Not
I'm sorry, I can't. I can never let this go.
but in the end, everything about their polling narrative was a lie.
Yes.
It wasn't just the top lines. That's why the show was called Inside the Numbers. It wasn't just the top line numbers. It was so much more than that.
It was deep. Yeah.
There was some slippage with some white working class men in some areas, but not really, not a lot. I hate to tell everybody, but you really don't have that much argument. It's a few point shift. In the end, Trump did actually better with white women. Could just think about that for a second. After everything you heard out of Martha McCowan's mouth all these years, after everything you heard out of Dave Wasserman on Twitter. By the way, go back and find his tweet. Well, you could really take a bunch of solid district-wide polls and you could either ignore them and take the word of junk Trump-friendly polls.
Mm-hmm.
No, we were right and you were wrong. And I'm not Trump-friendly. I'm truth-friendly. I hate that, how they lump you like that, because you're not in their groupthink. They lump you into it. So if you're not in the groupthink, then basically they just, and thank you, James. Appreciate that. And anybody else, if I missed yours too, that I very much appreciate it. If I missed any other super chat. All right. Just to let you guys know in case I missed it. I just happened to see that corner of my eye. But yeah, I mean, if you don't fall within their click and you don't submit to, because I know a lot of university pollsters that don't, but they're cowards. So they got punked. Yeah, they're afraid of Nate and they're afraid of, they may get a B- or a C+ rating on his corny little pollster scorecard. Every single one of his A-raters bombed. Marist again. Robert was right. Barnes was right. He said they will be among the worst. And they were. Biden +6, Florida.
Yeah.
After actually showing Trump up by 4.
That stood up well against the Times.
Their previous poll in Florida was Trump +4. Or no, I'm sorry. That was ABC News. Yeah, you're right. No, NBC Marist was a bomb all the way. They were also one of the few that showed Claire McCaskill was going to hold her seat. Most of them didn't have the goal, the unmitigated goal, to do that. They just showed ties. Like Howley, McCaskill, tied at 43. Not Marist, boy. McCaskill +3. She gets creamed. 9-point miss. 9-point miss now in Florida.
They still have their jobs.
Unbelievable. And that's why, I mean, essentially, you guys are winning me over with what's going on here, which is that only some of this can possibly be attributed to methodological error, to, just not. At this point, we're in the realm of two explanations. Gross incompetency and intentional deception. There really is no other explanation. I mean, Laura, you remember when I was polling Wisconsin, I didn't even get the Northeast as much as I wanted, but I was still looking at that poll like, how in hell did they come up with Biden +17? Just not possible. Yes, response bias is a problem, but this is not a new problem. It's not a new problem. It's been around for a while. The polls were not right in 2014. They were better for Republicans, but it's a consistent theme now. Even going back all the way to 2010, Rasmussen was the only one who showed on the congressional ballot a lead sufficient enough to break 60 seats. They were smeared. Oh, it's impossible. If that happens, Republicans would wind up taking 60 seats, and they did. This is a long-standing thing now. Their real problem is them. There are ways to evolve. There was ample. By 2016, I can understand them sticking their head in the sand and saying, you know what? It was a fluke. A fluke. Even though I argued to my damnedest that it was not a fluke. It was region and education right off the bat, major problems. And then, of course, polling modes and among other things. But those are great places to start. They didn't bother listening. They took some of them took education to heart, like Nate Cohen at the New York Times. But education was not enough. It was never enough. And then they really need to start looking at their modes, because the only one benefiting from these modes is the polling industry. I commit cardinal sins on this show, and I tell you guys things that they don't ever really want you to say. Like, for instance, live caller costs 4 times the amount that it will cost per response if you were to hire somebody to conduct a poll and you ask for live caller instead of online pal. You're looking on average about 4 times more. And while they differ, it's roughly true to of IVR. And IVR still does have a place because IVR provides anonymity, which is another secret ingredient in this whole thing, especially when it comes to more metro skewing Republicans. They got plenty of Republicans. They just got them in the wrong places. They reached them by the wrong mode. They exposed themselves to desirability bias, non-response bias. They're junk. Their work is junk. It's not even close. And if you continue at this point doing it, then there's no other explanation other than you want to mislead people. Because, folks, polls hurt. They do impact elections. They do. They impact fundraising. They impact enthusiasm. Everybody wants to be on the winning side. Nobody wants to be on the losing side. They can be powerful tools in an information war. And that's not what they're for. That's a perversion of what they're intended to be for. And that's a catastrophe. It's a disservice to you. It's a disservice to their own character. It's a disservice to the nation. Because if you can't get, and we're going to be talking about this more in the future, if you can't get a horse race right, you damn sure can't get issues right. You see the gall on these people already releasing polls saying 80% say Trump lost and should concede. I told you they were coming. Did I or did I not tell you that you would see these polls soon? Just the News had one that said only half the country thinks Biden's legitimate. They were at least close, but they did not call the election correctly either. So at this point, how could they even have the nerve to release a poll that says something like that? How could they have the nerve? But in the future, the danger is here, Laura. Like, let's say we're having a gun debate. Let's say we're having a debate over a crime bill, whatever. If you can't trust the pollsters to tell you the truth, they're going to use them to influence policy making, not just elections.
It's called creating a narrative, but then driving the narrative home by brainwashing you, in essence, as like, look, we have science behind the lie.
Yep. It's like validation.
And that's how they manipulate people. And that's why when you approach somebody who is of the opposite mindset as you walk into a deer in headlights.
Yeah.
When you're presenting facts, they don't know how to respond to that because they're realizing they've been lied to this whole time. And so then the only thing they can do before breaking is call you the racist, the sexist, the bigot,
So true.
Their arsenal. Because they can't handle the truth. And I mean, just think about it. If you were told your whole entire life that an orange was an apple, And
No, they can't take anyone else's point of view. They just can't. Like,
if
that's
somebody
not
comes up
an
to us
apple.
and says an apple is
That's
an
an
apple.
orange, man.
Yeah,
You know, like,
yeah,
what?
it's an and it could look orange, and the color of orange, and
Yep.
it is an orange,
Yep.
but they were told it was an apple.
That's so true.
That's it.
That's a really good point. And they got their friends and their social circles,
And their bubbles.
their bubbles, which I think somebody just commented on in the thing. They got their bubbles, and everybody in the bubble is looking at it and says, "No, it's an apple. Don't listen to them. It's an apple." It's a problem, man. It's a real problem. I agree. All right, listen, I'm going to take a real quick break. When we come back, we'll do some questions. I know it is for you, Will, on Friday, but as you can imagine, there's quite a bit going on. And again, do not forget to subscribe to that newsletter that is in the description thing, okay? Because, well, now we know because, right? We need to get into a newsletter kind of community. This way, if something happens, we can tell you, listen, Inside the Numbers is going to be on this link on PPD. You can come view it here. All right. We don't never know. And then Laura has been looking into different kinds of native. We're going to have a native video community, and you can sign in there. So if you're already a subscriber too to PPD, but it won't be behind the paywall. You don't have to subscribe. But I mean, if you already are, why would you go to YouTube? Right? It kind of doesn't make sense. You'd watch it on People's Pundit Daily, right? So that's what we're gonna do. And PPD is still zapped. So that they really take issue with people calling elections, I guess. Right? All right. So yeah, true story. So there you have it. And again, of course, subscribe. I mean, we're not pulling off. Subscribe. We're going up in subscriptions on YouTube, and it's great. It really is. So keep it up, and we appreciate everybody who supports the show, whether it's super chats, you subscribe, you share the video. All of it has been enormously helpful. All right, and we're gonna keep trucking. That's all there is to it. And then, by the way, real quick, right before I leave you with the soothing sounds of the Bowen Band for 2 minutes, I want a retraction. PolitiFact. I want a retraction. Change it. I don't care if you leave it up. Correct the story. Tell people who that claim actually came from.
Wow. Somebody just said I'm 250 pounds. Woo. That'd be really big.
Who?
I don't care.
You're 250?
Yeah, a troll said, Laura's probably 250 pounds. Yet at my height, 5 foot, you would have to roll me down the hill.
Nah, she's not 250 pounds. You ignore that. Don't even dignify people.
I just think it's funny.
All right, I'm going to leave you with the soothing sounds of the Bowen Band. By the way, I spoke to them the other day, and I think he did. It will be available soon, I think. I don't want to kick myself with it, but I'm like, listen, man, I play this song, and people love it. When's it going to be for sale, along with a lot of other great music that they have? All right, so again, be right back. 2 minutes. Subscribe. You're watching Inside the Numbers.
How much you wanna bet that I can get you back inside your head before the summer ends, and spread a little love. Just for a little fun, I'll make you come back to me before the rise of every sun. Baby, it's meant to be. I know you got a man, but he don't understand. You're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. Rhythm in our love, it's impressive, excessive. You can't make this stuff up. My chest beats, it's restless, wakes the neighbors up above. Yeah, baby, come and show me love. Baby, come and show me love. Because you're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. us a way to find a place we can hide. It wouldn't take much to spear for a night, just to give in to the need and leave it all behind. Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. You're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. You're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. Suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah.
All right, so we're back. You're watching Inside the Numbers with the People's Pundit. I will now open it up for questions. All right. Be patient because she is zapped. She's not on Periscope, so there's not a whole lot she can do there. But she's doing her best. All right. And thank you, Shane, for your super chat. Okay. Awesome. Oops. And I did not mean to blow you out there like that. I just meant to click on it to see if you had a question.
Quite a few, but that's okay.
I did. Thank you for
But they
everybody.
still love you.
All right. Okay. Let's do this, Laura. What do we got here today?
Let's do this. All right. Aaron Sinclair. Why do they want to keep the economy locked down? What do they gain? Are they trying to destroy middle/working class financially so we are no longer in opposition? I mean,
Yeah,
I got
so-
my theories.
Yeah, listen, who did the lockdowns help? They help their people.
Mhm.
They destroy the small business and people like, what's his name at Amazon, get rich. I mean, that's who it helps. The people who fund and stuff their pockets. It helps, the Twitter tyrants and, others, they're not hurt by this. They're helped by this. I think there were even distortions with the online panels because of the shutdown. I think we had like a massive increase in panel participation from people who were impacted by it, but in a good way. So now you're working from home, or maybe now you have nothing to do and you're not, in a rush to jump off the unemployment benefit bandwagon, And by the way, unemployment fell again, and the insured unemployment rate is now down. I believe it's 6.9 or something. No, insured unemployment's down to 4.6. We didn't even deserve this. I'm telling you. And that's just my personal opinion. I don't know that anybody who's independent will step forward again for a long time. If this is what turns out to happen to this guy. I don't know why you would. Right? I don't know why you would. You're certainly not rewarded for your efforts.
I mean, he's not even getting paid for the job.
He never took a dollar, Laura.
He
He never took a dollar. He never took a dollar.
Didn't he get- oh.
I mean, really. I mean, you
I love
could say
Melania.
what you want about
I
you.
love Melania.
Laura's a big fan. You could say what you want about the president. You could disagree with some of his policies, but the fact of the matter is, he's the first. We haven't had somebody like him since Grover Cleveland, which is somebody who just gets in and truly has the ability to do what he at least believes is right. And nobody owns him. He didn't take a dollar for it. His family not only didn't get rich,
And
they
that
lost
is the
money.
problem. How dare us vote
Yeah.
for a man
Yeah.
that's not beholden
Yeah,
to anyone.
That's right.
This is a
that's why they don't.
speaking
Yes, it
from
is.
the upper echelons of whatever you
Yeah.
want to call them.
But it does. Yeah. I mean, just it helps. It helps those people. It helps that status quo.
Yes.
I mean, they have. They don't like the mom and pop look, guys. They don't like the small town America thing. They don't want you to have that kind of. And by the way, you'll also be more depressed. You'll be less motivated. They're trying to break you. That's what that personally want. I mean, really, they're trying to break you.
If,
And
if the government is not needed because we are
Yeah, they want you-
self-sufficient,
that's right. Yeah.
then they have no purpose.
That's a great way to, you know what? You just nailed it. Really, all of that, and the government and their allies,
Mhm.
right? So, Mr. Amazon is their ally.
Mhm.
I mean, so they can consolidate that power, and they can break you. They can take civil liberties away in the name of public health emergency. Yeah, they look at what they did.
And I
We-
said they as in government.
Yeah, they as in government, and we have been arguing for months now that they use this as a predicate to put a moratorium on election laws. They use COVID-19 as a predicate to put a moratorium on the First Amendment,
Mhm.
the Second Amendment, the Fourth Amendment, just down the list, down the line. Due process, even. Amendments that were added later.
I'm waiting for COVID to be the purpose of
less
that we need to
competition.
take guns.
That's exactly right. Laura Butler is exactly right. Less competition. So you got those little guys out there playing the game. Then, there it is. They want them squashed. There is some, listen, there is, and it's kind of funny. You don't have to take my word for it. The former Bush people, and here, let me tell you guys a great story, right? So the Karl Rove thing, and people want me to tell the story about how I did end up on Tucker. When I got vaporized, the pushback was huge. I guess we were trending. I guess Laura said, we were trending. And we woke up to the producer, she hit every email possible. We spoke to them. We told her the story. I mean, that's it. And that's how it ended. It's real short. He gave me an opportunity to fight back, and I very much appreciate him for it.
One of Tucker's analysts saw that we were.
Oh, is that one of the analysts? Okay, so there you go.
Saw that and flagged Tucker.
There you go.
And Tucker is
See Laura
proponent of
showcasing
those that suppress others.
Yes, yeah, he's big on two things. Tech censorship, and then he himself. You heard him yesterday. He knows what I'm saying is true.
Mm-hmm.
It's not, it's just a matter of getting to the bottom of how big it is. But don't believe PolitiFact for a second when they tell you there's no evidence of voter fraud. That's nonsense. There's voter fraud in every election, guys. There is voter fraud in every election. Don't take my word for it. The Georgia Secretary of State said, yeah, in this recount, we're going to find fraud. There's always fraud. The question here is whether or not there was premeditated, large-scale fraud. Did they exploit the COVID situation to get the ability to commit fraud on a much larger scale? And that is what we are investigating to find out. We were removed because we were not willing to let people with an agenda like PolitiFact, and don't get me right, there are people obviously on the right who have an agenda too. That's why they take you out of context, put up stuff, and hurt your cause.
Mm-hmm.
Laura and I just want to get to the truth of it all.
And we want to finish
our interest, right? Our interest
product.
is getting a finished project that reflects the truth, because we want to preserve integrity in the process. That is our interest. And
no American deserves to be
you can't,
robbed.
you look, no American should feel that their president is illegitimate, and no American should be robbed. And because frankly, if there wasn't, then people need to know that so they can accept Joe Biden as the president and move forward. If there was, then you need to know that elections are turning into holograms. And what I mean by that is
to accept the fact that there's an investigation.
Yeah, and they need, and that's another thing that the show cared a lot about. Like, just the fact that we were investigating it was so threatening to them, and they tried to shut it down, like bang, bang, bang. I guess they're getting they're getting blowback too from looking into claims. That is not America. That is not what we do in the United States of America. We don't do that stuff here, or at least we're not supposed to. That's communist kind of stuff, guys. That's Mao Zedong kind of tyranny. That's a whole new level. But, to give you another, the roll around on this here, there is a path for Trump. There is. And I know we're in uncharted territory, But we're talking about margins in multiple states, including Arizona, which they just called. We are talking about margins in almost every single one of these contested states that are far slimmer than Donald Trump's margins in 2016. Far slimmer. Donald Trump won Wisconsin by a bigger margin than Joe Biden's currently leading there right now. Joe Biden won Pennsylvania by a bigger margin than Joe Biden's currently leading there right now. Donald Trump won Georgia by a far bigger margin than Donald Trump is leading there right now. I mean, that Joe Biden is leading there right now. In Arizona, Donald Trump won by a far bigger margin in 2016 than Joe Biden is leading in there right now. And there are questions all over and recounts all over. And even the old Bush team disagreed with Karl Rove yesterday and said, I'm sorry, but Rove just doesn't know what he's talking about. And in fact, we know he doesn't know what he's talking about, because in conversations with somebody, and I'm not going to blow him up, but in conversations with somebody who revealed to us how the 2000 recount thing happened behind the scenes. They had a young legislator at the time in Florida. You may recognize him. His name is Marco Rubio. But back then, he ran stuff at the state house in Florida. He was very influential. And they were just going to railroad the recount process. And the state legislature was just gearing up without Karl Rove even knowing. That campaign manager for the president, he had no freaking clue. His brother, the governor, they had no idea that the legislature could just say, you know what, this process is irreparably harmed. The integrity of the election is in doubt so much here that we're just going to send delegates our damn selves. And they're going to vote for George W. Bush. The legislature absolutely can do it. And there is some precedent for this in the country. I know we haven't seen it in modern times, but there is some precedent for stuff. We haven't always had clean outcomes in presidential elections. That is just a reality. So, and yeah, and he told me something. He was like, listen, Rich, don't ever make the mistake of thinking that the people in power know what the hell they're doing, because they don't. And that is so true. That's the best piece of advice, because it is. I have always, it has never ceased to amaze me over the years. It still, to this day, shocks me when I get involved, and I'm like, wait a minute, you don't understand this? You don't know that? They don't. Our leadership is rather mediocre. And we're not talking about a merit-based system here. Rather mediocre system, rather mediocre people, average intelligence. That's just the truth.
Ivy League degree doesn't make you smart.
Yeah.
Sorry.
It's true. All right, so what's the next one?
All right. Let's go on to the next one. Sarah Severson said, do you guys think Trump has any chance of succeeding with the lawsuits, legislature, courts? I know there was a precedent set in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, well, I was trying to address that one. I do. I think Karl Rove is wrong. I do. These are very close. I mean, the media wants to close the book. That's why they come after people like me when we're investigating voting irregularities.
To me, that's a tell.
It's a tell, guys. These margins are very, very slim. Very slim. Very slim, So I understand that there have been recounts that have found big mistakes, including in recent elections. There were major problems with mail-in ballot counting in the 2020 Democratic primary. There were large numbers of votes DQ'd. You don't remember those headlines?
Yeah.
I'm talking about vote sizes that will trump Biden's margins. That's why I never understood, outside of what, my cynic in me is telling me, I never understood the race to close this chapter, to call these states, to end it. That's crazy.
Speaking of that, Charlie wants to know, do you still consider 10 to 15,000 votes to be a large fraud? In this case, even small frauds were able to flip states like Arizona.
Yeah, I do. I do, because those kinds of numbers tell me that this was, look, guys, if there turns out to be that they can't explain large numbers like that when it comes to just one group of votes. So what we're doing is not just trying to throw everything in one basket. And what we're doing is saying, maybe here are some problems with deceased voters. Here are some problems with change of address voters. Here are some problems with addresses and multiple, duplicate records, stuff like that. It looks that I do consider that mass scale, because in order to pull something like that off, you need a lot of players. So and I hate to say it, but in some cases, it would actually take the assistance of local election officials, like the clerks, the county clerks, and there's just no other way. The Biden campaign did not have a get out the vote apparatus. They didn't have a legitimate get out the vote apparatus, guys. So who did all this legwork? You understand what I'm saying? I would consider that, and again, we'll have to see what it shakes out. But that to me would tell me that this was something that was more than just some volunteer activist, red voter registration person who was overzealous. And by the way, I did get a quote from, I want to read this. I did get a quote here from apparently Dan Bishop in North Carolina, representative. The quote says, "There are troubling indications of ballot problems with elections in various states." This is Dan Bishop, congressman, right? "I know of egregious misconduct by election officials in my own district, including video footage I'm in possession of, which we received by public information request and are currently reviewing to make conclusions. If various state elections are close, and there was a litigation effort on behalf of Democrats to subvert enacted law and election process, that's wrong and contrary to the rule of law. If there is clear misconduct, and it appears there is, this is what he's saying, whatever the president's lawyers are able to make of it, they should be allowed to, and that process should play out. I think every candidate who is in a position to do so should pursue appropriate litigation to assure rights and the rule of law." All right, so obviously he's got his hands on something that made him, quake a little bit. So the bottom line is, I can tell him right now that one of his statements is absolutely true. I mean, if various states' elections are close and there was a litigation effort on behalf of Democrats to subvert enacted laws and election processes, et cetera, et cetera. Well, Congressman, with all due respect, that's not an if. Democrats sued in the name of COVID, using the pandemic as a predicate. They sued everywhere, or sometimes, in some cases, they just took unilateral action using whatever office, whatever authority they thought they had from an elected office to make these changes. Clark County did not have the right or the authority to put a moratorium on ballot harvesting in their county. Ballot harvesting is illegal in the state of Nevada and has been for many years.
You're not allowed to have a car full of ballots?
No, and you can't use the U.S. Postal Service as your personal ballot harvester either.
Dang it. I'm sorry, I'm just over this.
You are not allowed and do not have the authority as a governor to wave a magic wand, to wave your pen, and put a moratorium on verification procedures. Whether it's signature match, whatever, naked ballots with the envelopes, right?
Mm-hmm.
You don't have the right to do that. You don't have a right as a local poll worker to break the law and not allow poll observers to observe the ballot counting process from both sides because of COVID. I mean, it's ridiculous. Social distancing.
Oh, but
they social did don't,
Preach it.
they social distanced far enough so you couldn't see what they were doing. I mean, that's what all these affidavits say. I mean, so with all due respect, Congressman, what took you so long? Where have you been for the last 2 months when we were putting up these bulletins? Everyone gets a ballot. In prior years, ballots must be requested. Inactive voters must update their info first. Even deceased voters, change of address flags, and other inactive voters were receiving ballots in multiple states. And again, the bulletin is what they wanted, like 100%. This is what they wanted. They didn't get everything everywhere, but they got enough. And in other cases, obviously, it's very clear that even where the court said, no, you can't do it, they did it anyway. No verification procedures. Democrats did not want signature match or other verification standards. Most often, required by state law. And third, ballot harvesting. Even in states when ballot harvesting is illegal. Democrats not only wanted a moratorium on those laws, they wanted to use tax dollars, in some cases, to fund ballot harvests to retrieve votes. And if you remember, there was no innocent explanation, is the conclusion. There is no innocent explanation. So with all due respect, Congressman, how could you be an elected official and not understand what you just walked into? I'm unclear how you don't know how important it is for election integrity to not have to put a moratorium on verification procedures.
This is ridiculous.
To not know the difference between a solicited and unsolicited ballot and or ballot request. It's like crazy to me. You have NSA officials so seething with hatred that they're willing to leak classified information, knowing potentially they could be busted and prosecuted, to damage President Trump. You don't think that big media hate machine pumped out enough hatred into the population that when a bunch of people got ballots on their table, they may have decided to fill those in? They're doing the right thing after all, because Trump is a Nazi. And in truth, they're not really breaking the law. It's for the higher purpose, you see. I'm the virtuous one because I'm fighting Nazism. I'm doing the right thing here, right?
It's like
I mean, but this is like, really?
No, this is what I'm saying is that
don't you think that was a little foolish?
Of projection. They call him a Nazi, but then they're
acting like, oh, I don't know.
No,
it's more Stalin-esque or,
it.
Oh, right. Well, I mean, this is what kind of drives me nuts, though. Like,
they want to change the government to that, but yet they criticize him and call him a Nazi.
I know, but they don't understand that really it's all very similar. So
yes.
I know I get this a lot where people want to debate the definition of Nazi and communism and,
fascism.
What's right wing and what's left wing.
Mm-hmm.
Fascism is a racial component to a form of socialism, and it allows the perception of private sector still, right? But those private sector figureheads are really just, pawns by the government. They take direction from the government anyway. So they're not free to operate their sectors as they wish. The difference between communism is that it's just publicly owned, meaning the state owns it in your name, of course, right? But in the end, they were both socialists.
Yes.
And they were both about bigger government, not less. I mean, fascism is a form of socialism. That's it. Nazism had a racial component to it. And was, German specific or Germanic.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's the idea that fascism was on the right is something they fabricated in the 20th century because they needed to make an excuse as to why Uncle Joe was a monster, yet we still called him a friend.
Well, just
so
like the right are a bunch of racists, yet the left is the party of the KKK.
Right.
I mean,
right.
they get burned.
The definitions change over time.
They manipulate it.
All right. So basically,
And that
let's
goes back to
let's go
narratives.
let's go back to some questions though, because I know people
Yeah,
have questions
sorry.
about the actual election. But
Yeah,
um,
Dylan, Matt wants to know, can you talk about
whoops.
legal and electoral college one?
Yeah. So really, they have till December. I mean, there are different states
what
have different
happens?
ways for
Like-
certification. Like, so the Trump campaign sued to prevent Pennsylvania from certifying the results. So they have, in December, various states will they have to send their delegates by September to the Electoral College to cast their votes. So Al Gore, though, took this 31 days, guys. He took it well into December. There were already talks about postponing. I mean, this is not the first time this has happened. So they do have to hurry up, though. I mean, there's no doubt. I'm just not a lawyer, so I don't want to speak about the practicality of a lawsuit or something. I'm not a lawyer. And that would be a question for Robert. Maybe we can get Robert on sometime next week and go from there. But I will tell you this, that even some of the recounts that you're hearing they're going to get are not really audits at all. And it probably won't change the result. You have to audit it. And then from what we understand with some of these allegations, some of this stuff would just be incredibly difficult to catch. Because if you threw out those envelopes in Pennsylvania, Laura, how are you supposed to find out whether or not they were valid or not? If you remember, guys, we had a ton of articles. Could be 100,000 ballots in Pennsylvania thrown out because of the naked ballot rules and verification procedures. Even where they lost these legal challenges, you would see, and no offense to her, it's just true. She was just like on Twitter, massive victory for the GOP. The officials have to follow the procedures the legislature rolled out for naked ballots. They didn't. Just because they got a court to say they did. The minute you could not observe what was going on, it should have told you everything you needed to know. Really. I mean, it should have told you everything you needed to know. It's only a victory if you enforce it. There is no enforcement of court orders. Not really, not practically speaking. And many of these people, from what you could read the affidavits yourself, these people showed up to do their job and they were prevented from doing so. That is what happened. Because they knew, guys. Because they knew. It's hard to undo what we did already. You know? It's hard. It's hard to find. It's like, prove it now. Prove that these ballots, they were false. Prove that the envelopes, warranted us DQing these ballots. Okay, give me the envelopes. Well, we threw them out.
Well,
this is like,
And then that's also the thing about media when they keep saying there's no fraud, no fraud. I said, prove to me there's no fraud.
Yeah.
And I will
Let's do the
stop
double
saying there's
negative.
Fraud.
Let's do the double negative then. Okay. Let's just right. How do you know? You prove to me there was no fraud. And
I seen it.
And there's right. Like they're telling the country
Don't
this.
believe your
And
eyes.
you and I know that is a load. Even some of the excuses from the Secretary of State so far. You're telling me your system's broken? You're telling me that your record showing this person A voted is incorrect?
Okay,
Then why aren't the other records incorrect?
But let's say that. Okay, so then we subtract all those people. Then why do you have more people that voted than there are?
Right. Well, it's
in
still
your state?
it's still no, but
Come on.
they shouldn't be in that state
Exactly.
anymore. Or no, you know what I'm saying, on the rolls anymore. And people have to understand this, that it is not hard. Yeah, it is. It's the definition of plausible deniability. Exactly right. Exactly right. And that is what that's the case they're trying to make.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, that's how that got started with that tweet about Fulton County, because of how they were responding to the president's campaign's claims. Okay. We found this many people who voted in Nevada or voted in Georgia, but no longer live there. And the media was going, there's no evidence of that. even though they actually brought a voter to the press conference for one of them. Okay. I mean, they brought the voter who moved. She said she moved. And yet her ballot was cast and stayed in Clark County. And the media is going, that doesn't happen. That doesn't happen. And my tweet was simply to show, of course it can happen. The voter rolls are completely dirty. When you move, guys, do you call your previous state? Is like, wrapped up in all of the stress of moving from one state to the other. Do you think when you finally get to your new house or wherever it is that you're moving, do you think, well, the first thing I'm going to do is call my old state and tell them to take me off the voter rolls, right? Mm-hmm. How many people do you know do that? Or when grandma and grandpa die, or maybe now it's your mother and your father, whatever it is. In the middle of preparing all the funeral arrangements and then putting them in the ground and then afterward grieving, when do you get around to calling the Secretary of State and say, Mom died, take her off the voter rolls? And how many people do you know do that? You see my point? So for them, they were outwardly dismissing, one, that it was even possible. I guess that woman was just a liar. I guess that's what they were seriously trying to argue. And then two, that it's even like possible or even likely. And that is why I put those tweets up talking about. Of course, there are people on the rolls all over the country, in every state, that have moved. And if you are up to something, why would that woman's ballot be cast there? Well, like I said, and Barnes was on and he showed a picture of it. See how many ballots he got sent to him in Nevada? Right? And we've seen this everywhere. Is Macomb, Michigan? Again? I mean, that's everybody who's lived there over the last 20 years. We got images like this from all over the country when we were doing this, when we were covering this. Robert had slew of them. So, everybody over the last, again, roughly, however many years that lived in that area. And the point being, there were no doubt, there were people who knew damn well there was no real verification procedure. They hated Trump to death as much as the poll workers who rips up Trump's votes hate him to death. They hate him so much, they're willing to rip up a vote. And then there were people who had ballots, multiple ballots sent to them that hated him so much, they filled in the ballot. Of course they did.
My aunt received a ballot on election day and lives in New York.
There you go.
You don't have to cheat there.
It's amazing. We've studied a lot of the machine party politics, and you'd be surprised, Laura, like what we saw in Paterson, New Jersey. They dismissed that as something that, that just, that was one race. That is Democrat machine party politics. That is how it goes. It is not like an oddity. Mm-hmm. It's not. Even in areas where parties dominantly control elected offices and have for years, the machine still cheats. They do.
It's crazy.
Unfortunately, we still have a very Tammany-like mentality. Tammany Hall, we have a very Tammany-like mentality in a lot of these areas. And to suggest otherwise or to outright dismiss somebody, it's nonsense. It's total nonsense. It's just not true. And there you go. That's a good one. I'm looking. I just read that message, by the way. He's probably listening. I just read that. That's something. Yeah, I mean, this just doesn't happen, too. If this turns out to be the case, it doesn't. It can't just be explained by, because I do think. And I was in an interview that you had set me up in, and he said, do you think this is like, if it is true, what's the likelihood it was like some giant conspiracy, or does everybody just arrive at the same conclusion? And I think a lot of it, I think he was right. I think that if that does turn out to be the case, then it won't be some like Nancy Pelosi powwow everybody in a room. and they came up with this. I don't think so. I think that they're group thinkers by nature. And yeah, I mean, everybody just did like their small part, kind of thing. Everyone arrives, everyone who thinks the same, everyone who herds, you have a herd mentality, you arrive at the same conclusion. And you tend to mimic each other's actions, but it can't, we're not talking about, one or two people who were running around for the Biden campaign in a county. And, it's just not plausible. It's not. All right. So, let's get in.
Do you have any Periscope questions you could see? Because I feel
Oh,
so
yeah,
guilty
yeah.
that I can't
She feels
for it.
guilty for not seeing your Periscope questions. Let's see. Why don't you go through? Oh, you can't.
I can't go through it.
I don't know. That's a good question. People ask too, just on Periscope, that basically, why does Trump follow court orders if nobody does? I mean, that's that kind of mentality is what I'm afraid of. It's not that, and I don't mean that because of your question. I'm simply saying that because if a system only promotes and benefits one side, and then the other doesn't have a way to air their grievances or take their case, like the system doesn't work for them anymore. Then that's it. That's the problem. They conclude that it's not worth it, and they'll find other avenues to pump it out. There's some good comments. I don't know that I see questions necessarily, but some great about fascism before and communism. They're neighbors. That's exactly right. I saw that one too.
Issue about the Pennsylvania audit, how they're not letting anybody review, like overwatch it.
Yeah, that's the way it's going to go. And in North Carolina, in Arizona, the Trump campaign wants a recount. Actually, Republicans in general want a recount.
Georgia,
And I was just going to say in Georgia, there are major problems with what's going on in Georgia. We will actually be getting an update later today about what's going on there. But the messages I got yesterday about their challenges there was, I don't even know. I don't know what Jack Kemp is the most worthless governor. I mean, he is. And the Secretary of State, I mean, he shouldn't even have a job right now. But it was somebody's question I wanted to grab, though, because
someone asked, how can you have fairness when half of GOP is useless and goes along with it?
Well, and eventually, that's it. Right. Could Trump have done anything in this time as president to prevent voter fraud? That's okay, Nick. That's a great question. He set up the Election Integrity Project with Mike Pence right away, and then nothing happened. Nothing happened. It's incredible. Then we have the National Voter Registration Act of 1993. Some states are better than others at following it. And it is true. It is true that the state is behind because we have an imperfect system. It's not necessarily that there's a sinister motivation there. But as president, he had avenues, even just through the Department of Justice, that he could have done something. The Civil Rights Division is dominated by left-wingers, but he could have put somebody in there. The Civil Rights Division, that is supposed to be their wheelhouse. So, do work to make sure to audit some of these people, to make sure that in the past they have led independent poll workers in there. There are some areas, some urban areas in this country where vote counting goes on that a Republican poll watcher wouldn't even feel safe in the neighborhood. I mean, that's true. All right. I mean, we always hear about the other side, which is valid too. But we never hear about the other side, the flip side of that, which is that some of these neighborhoods are bad. And they certainly don't want some white guy in a suit or some, coming in to look at what they're doing. And then there is a separate office in the Justice Department as well that deals with this. They just didn't use the levers and the tools at their disposal. That was a really good question, Nick. And then also as well, really what he could have done better than, would have helped him all around in his presidency He should have listened to Mark Meadows and his plan to remove Paul Ryan right off the bat, because a lot of legislation could have got done to preserve the electoral viability of the Republican Party in the future. So it's natural risks, I guess, or it's natural enemies as a political force. Merit-based versus family-based immigration. That's a natural enemy of the Republican Party. Its viability as a political force. All right. Political maturation occurs much faster with merit-based. And that, assimilation is a big part of whether or not somebody identifies. So whether or not somebody identifies as their national origin instead of as an American is a pretty solid predictive indicator. It does, as far as just new arrivals go. And then and again, the election integrity project shouldn't have been an executive action run out of the office of the vice president. There could have been legislation, but Paul Ryan was never going to get that done. And they did have a plan to oust Paul Ryan when he first took office. But kind of like Nixon, Trump really did believe that he could reach out and bridge a divide, between these groups of people.
Totally agree.
And he could not. That was never going to happen. And Mitch McConnell used him. To get the judges that are friendly to the Chamber of Commerce in the name of conservative judges, of course. That's how they sell it. Mostly off lists from the Federalist Society. And they mocked him behind his back. Oh, that idiot. He signed that omnibus bill. We're not holding that damn vote for that wall. By the way, you could put the wall, you could go to, we're working on a fact check. There legit is a page on the Customs and Border Patrol website. I'll be damned if you can't view live footage, or street view footage of the border wall that's going up. He was putting that up. I mean, some of it is different wall here, some different wall there. And it's actually very transparent. It says this is a new wall, a new physical barrier, border wall system, it's called. Is this a new barrier? Is this a replacement for existing fencing that was there? Is this an environmental obstacle? So some kind of an obstacle why there can't be a wall there. Here's how many miles went up over here by Yuma. Here's how many miles went up over here by El Paso. I mean, it was really interesting, actually. But it's legit. It's there. But, this is the kind of stuff that happened. It was more than just whether or not they could have done something about election integrity, but his presidency in general. He had that general instinct. You know what? I do want to bridge the divide in the Republican Party. I do want to unify it. I want to bring these guys in. I don't want to exclude them. Yes, I'm an outsider and I'm going to do business is going to change. But I don't want to exclude them from this movement, this effort. So let me try to reach out to them. And they would, and they'd reach out and they'd shake his hand. And the minute he turned around to walk away, they'd put a dagger in his back. And Mark Meadows and others had a plan to oust Paul Ryan. And he didn't do it. A lot of staffing issues, a lot of leadership issues that, hindsight's always 20/20. And I'm not trying to kick the guy when he's down. I'm simply saying there were other people, like a Mark Meadows, and many others understand the threats. Tech censorship. Look what just happened to me yesterday. Tech censorship. There are people. There's a part of the wing of that party that does understand what the true threats are to the viability of the party as a political force in the future. Devin Nunes, he gets it, right? The Josh Hawley in the Senate, he gets it. But unfortunately, too many of those others really just clung and clung and clung and drove a wedge and drove a wedge and drove a wedge, That was constantly all they did. I mean, could you imagine if they didn't spend 4 years trying to, I'm talking about his own party. If they didn't spend 4 years trying to backstab him and trying to divide the party and trying to scare away certain groups of people, right? Could you imagine how big the Republican Party would be if they would have just accepted the sovereign vote of the American people in 2016 and conducted even a modicum of introspection? Just think about that. But they didn't. All right, let's grab one more before we kick rocks here. All right.
Someone wants to know.
And I'm gonna fix that damn issue.
Well, that's what happens when you rush me. Stop. If they're able to get away with the info that is coming out, do we have a chance in an honest election from here on out?
That is another one of our motivations, really. That's a great question. And that is another one of our motivations. Election integrity will degrade over time. That is what history tells us. So if you allow anything that may have happened to go uncovered, and allow it to stand, it'll only get worse. And that is what really, it's not for us.
Be our downfall?
Yeah, I mean, look, when elections just become, like I said before, when they come just like holograms and they're just one side just keeps winning and winning and winning because the system is like systemically tipped in their favor. It's not because they're winning arguments on policy. It's over. And that's like really my greatest concern. That the end result anyway. It would be incredibly difficult. It does, Republicans in certain states have been quicker to deal with some of these issues. They have adapted over the years, but they are called election integrity laws for a reason. And they are on the books for a reason. All right. And I don't know anybody who's benefiting on the Republican side from urban centers trickling in large ballot numbers days after the election. So which Republican candidate is that helping? I haven't seen it. So again, it's part of why I wondered why Republicans sat there and just swallowed this, because I guess a lot of it was just ignorance. I get maybe. And some of it, I'm sure too, was, again, I'll tell you guys, over the years, there are plenty of people, the Lindsey Grahams on down. They sing Donald Trump's praises on Fox News, every Hannity hit he gets. And then he goes and talks trash behind his back at an event with his stiff upper lip. Tea and crumpets crowd, right? They do. They'll tell you, you know what? The Republican Party will be better in the future. The Republican Party will be better in the future without Donald Trump in the end. That's what they believed. So I guess some of that probably had a role to play too. But yeah, I mean, if it's not confronted at this point, then history tells us it'll further degenerate from here. And then the voices of suppression and oppression will get louder and bolder. So it'll be much more difficult for somebody like me to say, hey, I want to look at these claims. It'll get worse. It'll get more difficult to do that in the future. All right.
I don't even think
so. Yeah, I mean, it's hard enough now. Look what happened now. So it will be incredibly hard in the future once they cast it as in the light that they have already begun to cast it in. I mean, as if anybody who has any questions or the nerve, let alone the nerve, to use the resources at their disposal to try to either invalidate or validate some of these claims. Mm-hmm. No. You're just supposed to shut up. We told you there's no fraud. Shut up. Go about your business.
That's not American.
It's not. That's right. All right. So again, don't forget, if you haven't done it already, do it right now. It's in the YouTube description. Go sign up to the newsletter. You can sign up to the other ones there too. You'll see them. You don't have to. If you're just an Inside the Numbers watcher, sign up for the Inside the Numbers newsletter. You will see, and if you're already a subscriber, you know, we don't bombard you with crap. This is really because in the event, we have got to have a way to remain in contact with you, okay? And then, of course, YouTube's always been good to us, except for the monetization stuff a little bit. They've always been good to us. So subscribe to the YouTube channel if you're not a subscriber already. Hit that little bell, the notification button. It'll let you know when we go live. If you're also still on Facebook, we're finally getting our likes up there. If you're also still on Facebook, mosey on over to Facebook and like the page People's Pundit Daily, okay? And let's see, what else? We got that. That's it. Of course, the best way to support the show. Oh, go ahead.
Twitter, please respond to my dispute.
We're still waiting on a reply about Laura's Twitter account. I have a feeling we'll still be waiting for a little bit. All right. What they accused Laura of, just to let you guys know, was to trying against the rule, violating our rules against evading permanent suspension, which is when we read into it, it's like when you get suspended and then you create another account or something to try to evade that suspension, which means you can be permanently banned. She has one account and only ever has had one account. And in truth, with the businesses, she doesn't mess with those businesses. So I don't know. She's on the tweet deck for them. So she could go in there and do something if she wanted, but she hardly does. And in fact, guys, that's how you know it's such bogus. The tweet deck is a tool to allow you to have teams for a business. So if officers of a business, of course, they have their own personal Twitter account, but they could all be added to the tweet deck to be able to use those accounts. That's not a violation of the rules. Multiple accounts is different where you're, and then you're trying to amplify your real account. And maybe like Bill Mitchell, he created a bunch of fake accounts, tried to get followers for them so then he could amplify it. That's what that is for. So the tell was deleting my wife for good measure. That was really the tell, right? But the blowback was huge from you guys. And they were ready for my email and they responded when it came to me right away. Somebody was like right there at the computer because it came back within 45 seconds, probably. It was fast. All right. So again, subscribe, YouTube, like on Facebook. And of course, the best way to support the show is to subscribe to PPD, which you could do by going to ppdnews.us/subscribe. ppdnews.us/subscribe. Or you could just go to peoplespunditdaily.com, find digital subscription that best fits your needs. Right? And get some data for your dollar. All right, so we're going to kick rocks. I want everybody to have a happy and safe weekend. I am probably going to pop on if there's something. I will probably just do like a scope or something. But we're going to get things situated here for the format of the show moving forward to look better. And we're going to make sure that that is in play by Monday. But also, I may pop on if there's something that warrants, like, well, this is nuts. Something's happening. What can you tell us about it? I'm not talking about every single thing. Like, Rich, can you tell us what's going on with Dominion software? I'm not a software analyst. I don't know. But I can help you understand the difference between a recount, a hand recount, and an audit, and what to expect from it. So if there's something big like that, I will probably do my best to pop on and explain it. All right. But other than that, everybody have a safe and happy weekend. Great weekend. And for the support and outrage, for the good words you hurled at us and the bad words you hurled at them, we love you for it, man. We saw it. We could see it. It was a beautiful thing. It was a beautiful thing. All right. So again, we'll see you guys on Monday, if nothing else. All right. But thanks for watching Inside the Numbers. All the best, folks. All the best.
How much you wanna bet that I can get you back inside your head? before the summer ends and spread a little love. Just for a little fun, I'll make you come back to me before the rise of every sun. Baby, it's meant to be, I know you got a man, but he don't understand. You're gonna be a heartbreaker, you're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. There's rhythm in our love, it's impressive, excessive. You can't make this stuff up. My chest beats, it's restless, wakes the neighbors up above. Yeah, baby, come and show me love. Baby, come and show me love, because you're gonna be a heartbreaker, you're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. Take a one-way ride, steal us away to find a place we can hide. It wouldn't take much to spear for a knife, just to give in to the need and leave it all behind. 'Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. 'Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. You're gonna be a heartbreaker, you're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. You're gonna be a heartbreaker, you're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna